evening, everyone, and welcome to Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi Corner. This is episode number 218, Coma, the classic 1978 sci-fi horror suspense film starring Genevieve Bujold, Michael Douglas, Rip Torn, Elizabeth Ashley, and Richard Widmark. With me tonight to discuss this classic is my friend, my co-host, the one and only, Mr. Ross Amico. Ross, welcome.
Thank you, Roy.
How are you, Ross?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing on this fine Friday?
Oh, I'm doing okay, Ross. It's been a very interesting week on many levels. Yeah, I think I'm doing okay. And yeah, there's been lots of good. There's been some and then there's been lots of good. So I think the good outweighs the bad.
I see you're wearing the super suit tonight.
Yep.
You're like a dark zebra.
There's all types of tie-dye out there, Rob.
I can see that.
Anyway, how are you doing? How was your week, Ross?
Oh, it was fine. Busy at times, but fine. I get deadlines. I have deadlines, and then I have nothing. So
what do you got right now? Nothing.
Friday's a good nothing day. I mean, this is like the last the last hurdle, and then I go, the week is over.
And then here we are.
And then starts again next week.
It's like it's the rat race all over again.
Yeah.
I have to apologize to the folks out there. If you're trying to log in and to watch the show, I usually send out an invitation, which I think makes it easier to get to our show's page. And what I did was I did something different. I actually just posted the poster or an image of the movie, and then I just put a blurb to go with it to try something different, just to change things up a little bit, which really worked out very well. But of course, then there's no link. So for the folks that are working their way to get here, we'll see you soon. So I do apologize for that, because I know a number of you had messaged myself and then also spoke with Ross about that. So anyway, just wanted to put that disclaimer out there. Now, looking into the comments, I see Urko 2005 is out there giving us the Vulcan hand salute. Welcome. I see Colin Curlis is joining us from the UK. Welcome, Colin. Good to see you out there. Randy Lee is in the house. He's saying, why did the comma break up with the apostrophe? Because it was too possessive. Oh, wait, you said coma. Anyway.
Go comb your hair. Yeah.
Welcome, Randy. And also, Lou is joining us. Lou is joining us from Rhode Island. And he's saying, or as they say in Rhode Island, Comer.
It's a comer. I mean, he's a comer.
Man, everybody's funny tonight.
Yeah.
I see Matt is out there. Welcome, Matt Anthony. Matt is in the house saying, hey, guys, you came in so early that you caught Ross's happy face.
You're holding your phone upside down, Matt.
And I see Deborah is out there joining us from Phillipsburg. Welcome, Deborah. See you out there. And Sue is joining us from Massachusetts. Welcome, Sue. Good to see you there. And yeah. Oh boy, here we go.
He's coming in.
It's coming in. They're coming in. So anyway, I thought, and then I spoke to Ross about it, and I put it out there about us doing this film. It was kind of a last minute thing.
Yeah. You put it out as we were doing the show, I think.
BTW, Ross, how do you feel about doing Coma?
I was cool with it. Wasn't my choice, but I'm good with it.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you, Sue. And I have to say, Sue and Randy, your shirts are on the way. So you guys will be getting them. And please let me know when you do receive them as well, too. So we will be doing another shirt order. And I apologize that you guys got your shirt so late, too. I was trying to going through a couple different vendors. But anyway, we're good now. And what I will do is I will post your photo. If you can send me photos with your shirts, and then I will post them together. In fact, there's a few people locally that I'm going to be meeting up with too. So there we go. And then Sue saying Ross is cool with it. He's a cool dude.
I'm down with it. Yeah, everybody knows how cool I am. But Ross is so laid back.
Yeah, I know, Randy. I'm sorry. Allow 63 weeks for delivery. I know. I apologize.
He delivers every order on foot. Face to face.
Anyway. Actually, I should do what Mike and Mary Beth do. They actually have like a service that they actually set up on their show or whatever. They have like and then it just direct shifts. I mean, that's probably the best way to go. But anyway, we're getting there. So
I like that we can hear every aspect of your thought process.
What's that?
With this, we're hearing the whole. It's like, well, maybe if we get a service or something like that.
Trying to keep everybody informed, Ross.
You're still waiting for the audience to build, aren't you? Yeah.
Inquiring minds want to know. Yeah, a sci-fi show intern. They got to be out there. Yeah, our numbers are building, Ross. They're building up. Dun, 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 dun,
we'll
dun,
work for coffee.
Dun. Anyway, I wanted to talk about this film. It's a Michael Crichton film, and I remember catching this film in the 70s, the late 70s. Saw it on Prism again, where I saw most of these movies from the late 70s because right after they were on in the movie theater, I think only the lag time was a lot longer than I think it was almost like a year by the time we actually were able to see films. Nowadays, what happens is like a month or two later, and boom, it was in the theater. Or even still after COVID, what's happening is they're actually showing it in the theater. And then what they're doing is they're giving you the opportunity to spend an exuberant amount of money, and then you can live stream it at home in the comfort of your own living room. So there you go with that.
It's right? Exuberant.
It really is. Hey, I'm seeing more people are coming in. I want to say hi to Jack Daly. Jack, welcome. He's saying Coma starring Genevieve Janeway for a day, Bujold. Yeah, we'll be discussing that a little later too. But absolutely, Jack. That is our connection to All Roads Leading to Star Trek tonight. And yes, I did move Squeaker just before I sat down too, Colin. And May is in the house. Welcome, May. Great to see you out there. She's saying hi to everyone. Hey, Jeffrey. And he's saying the hanging people scared the hell out of me as a kid. Absolutely, Jeffrey. I mean, it was really unnerving. In fact, I'm going to put that back up.
That's the indelible image. I mean, that was what was on the cover of the. Well, I mean, on the right there, the logo, the Coma with the person hanging. That was basically the cover of the book. When the book came out,
right
before it became the movie. So yeah, even the book was creepy looking. I remember it was on my mother's bedside table. She always read all of these kinds of books when they came out. This is one I had not read myself.
Yeah, I didn't read the book, and unfortunately, I regret that I had not, because a lot of folks were commenting during the course of the week when I posted that we were going to be doing this movie, and how much that they enjoyed the book and how much they loved it. And just talking with other people too, it really was done very, very well.
It was trash.
Ross. Liz is joining us.
Pretty good movie from it.
Welcome, Liz.
Hi, Liz. We almost lost you in a wave of negativity there.
Liz is saying that's one of the images that really stayed with me. Yeah, everybody's saying the same thing. I mean, Jeffrey was commenting, Liz, yep, it's so true. Matt's saying he saw this movie in a matinee with his mom.
Oh my goodness, at the state.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, when did you see this movie, Ross?
Like you, I probably saw some of it on cable, but I saw it on the screen, I think, in college for the first time. So, but I haven't seen it since. So, we were talking about 40 years, practically. Yeah.
Exactly. Hi,
At
Claudia.
least I
Claudia
think I
joining.
saw it on the screen there in college. I mean, I must have, because I didn't see it in the theater. I mean, in the movie theater. Yeah.
Now,
So
this movie really is a product of its time, too. I mean,
it is very much. I mean, this is like the peak of the paranoia thriller, the post
mhm,
Watergate paranoia thriller, when it just that distrust of institutions just pervaded everything. Wait, what institution you got? Okay, we're going to do a paranoid, uh, conspiracy movie about it. Sure,
yeah.
hospitals. Why not?
And yeah, instead of the ocean, instead of Jaws and the ocean, it was
But
taking place in the hospital.
yeah, people are uneasy about hospitals to begin with, and then this just confirms everything that you always suspect. All the doctors are more interested in their status and who's doing what than they are about the patients, and as we find out, quite literally, the patients are uh, commodities. They're to be bought and sold. So,
Right.
spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Yeah, in case you haven't seen it. Sherry's joining us. Hi, hun. And she's saying, hey, guys, sorry I'm late. Shower scene. Shower scene. Lots
There
of
was a shower scene. Yes.
watching
Yes.
from Easton, Pennsylvania at work.
Uh,
Yes, there was a shower scene.
Genevieve Bujold in the shower, but through the glass there. Yeah, which is interesting. We haven't really started to talk about this yet, but it kind of fits the theme of the movie, which is that she's always at this disadvantage in a men's world. All the
Right.
doctors are men, and they're always very dismissive of her in so many ways. And the only we see her through Michael Douglas's gaze, basically.
Mhm.
She's nude in the shower, and she doesn't want to be called honey. He calls her honey, and there's that whole setup with the couple there where she's kind of objectified or what have you, and she doesn't want to have anything to do with it. And it kind of sets up the tension of the whole film between her and the men, because even though he's the best of the bunch, he's still part of that culture.
Right.
So
Yeah, and you're really not sure how to take him. I mean, it's part of the whole setup in
right,
regards to the
right,
film,
until you get to a point. But yeah, definitely. They do
which
it on purpose, the way
right.
it's set up. There are a couple red herrings in the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that being one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought it was very, oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, real quickly, I just want to say hi to Jeff Curley. He's joining us from Texas. Jeff, welcome to the show and good to see you out there. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Ross.
No, I just, watching it, I thought, boy, this would have been such a Hitchcock thriller. If it had
Mhm.
been done in an earlier era, or if Hitchcock were still directing at that point. There were certain scenes and certain situations and certain shots that I think he tried to kind of evoke that. But of course, it wasn't Hitchcock. But I
Right.
mean, you got that with the situation where she gets onto the elevator with Dr. George, the anesthesiologist, and the other family is on there. And that's a very tense moment because you suspect that if she's on there with him alone, something bad's going to happen. You're just waiting for where's the Bernard Herrmann music,
Yeah.
or where the maintenance guy gets electrocuted and he falls toward the camera. This very Hitchcockian moment. When she goes to the Jefferson Institute or whatever, the nurse she meets there, it could have been Judith Anderson, from, which from the Star Trek thing, but she was in, Hitchcock's Rebecca. But you know what? This was I think this was right around the time, maybe a year after Mel Brooks's High Anxiety,
Anxiety.
which
Yep.
was the Hitchcock parody, and that was set in an institution. And maybe I'm just confusing or just comparing her to who was it, Nurse Diesel, who was who was what's her
Well,
face?
and
Yeah,
you just brought
Cloris
up a
Leachman.
point.
Yeah,
1975, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Nurse
right,
Ratchet,
Nurse Ratched. Yeah, yeah,
and that Michael Douglas was in that film. Well, actually, no,
yeah.
I think Michael Douglas directed that
He
film.
produced it. He produced it.
Produced it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, all this institutional stuff. They're all filled with the you know creepy nurses and and guys you don't want when they put you under, you're always what's going to go on here. But
Well, an interesting point that you brought up too. You were referring to music, and you were saying that we would be waiting for Bernard Herrmann to play. Hear his score,
yeah,
and you'll be covering this later. But one tidbit is that it wasn't until about 45 minutes into the film that they actually put music to the movie, which
yeah,
I
the
thought
first
was
half there's
interesting.
no music. Yeah,
Yeah.
they Yeah, the other thing, not only the institutional distrust, but also the fact that, it's something people still talk about today. Medicine basically, it was becoming a big business. It was more about the bottom line. It was more about making profits. It was more about, everybody's egos and their reputations, and who was going to make the head of the department and this kind of thing, rather than the patient care. And when they talked about the patients, especially the cadavers and so forth, they're treated basically like meat, or lunch meat. Even they put somebody on the slicer in one scene.
Well, no, and you know what? We're actually setting the stage for the discussion of this film, folks. And what's really scary about the whole thing is, I think it's almost like anything else. As time progressed, there was more technology, things, evolution. Now, this movie was shot in June of 77, and it was released in January of 78. So literally 47 years ago, this movie was made, just about, which is kind of crazy to think about. So time and progression and technology at that point was really starting to get to the next level. I mean, not where we are today, obviously, but still, if you compare it to, let's say, the 1930s or even the 40s and the 50s, things have really had evolved at that point. And what's very scary is that people, and in fact, there's a line in this movie, and I think it's when she is in the elevator and she's with the chief of the anesthesiologist, who's Rip Torn, who is very scary in other films, but in this film, he's disturbing. Just they do these close up looks. Yeah, I mean, he's just playing the camera.
This is the man who hit Norman Mailer over the head with a hammer.
Right.
In real life. So
it's very creepy. But there's a couple saying about, or exchanging dialogue about, how they have the faith or the trust in the doctors, and that they have to do what the doctors say. So really, I mean, it's kind of unnerving to think, you're and they're building this up, that you have that trust and you're really putting your life into their hands. And there's these kind of moments throughout the film that take place and then even lead up to it as it progresses. But it's really, really scary. And what's even scarier is that some of this even kind of transfers into real life, where, I don't know, I've been to a few different doctors, and for the most part, they're pretty good. But there are some that actually have egos, go figure, human beings, right? And it's almost like if you question them, it's like, how dare you question me? Like, who do you think you are? And, and it's just, we have that right. And this film really kind of touches upon that.
Right. And you're questioning them for good reason, it turns out.
Right.
What's really an interesting wrinkle in this one, though, is the point of view that they decided to do this from. Now, the novel is by, as I don't even think we mentioned it yet. It was, it wasn't Crichton that wrote the book. It was, the other medical novel, Cook. What's his name?
Robin Cook.
Robin Cook. Thank you.
Yep.
They were friends, apparently, and contemporaries, but it was Crichton who did the screenplay and directed it. But the angle that the story is told from is the woman's point of view. So it's not simply this thriller about what's happening to, that these people are mysteriously lapsing into comas after their surgeries, and what's going on with the bodies and what have you. But the entire culture of the hospital, which is examined from the point of view of the new woman. You know what I mean? It's like it was a time of an enormous change with feminism and people starting to talk about what it was like for women in the workplace. And she's a surgeon and not treated as an equal with these other. And when she goes in to talk to Richard Widmark's character, George Harris, he treats her as like she's a child. You think at a point, what's going on here?
Right.
And anytime that she does anything, like they say she's paranoid or she's hysterical or whatever, then she, they say, well, we don't want to have to let you go, or she gets sent to a psychiatrist, or whereas everybody else is like off the rails the whole time. It turns out she's the only sane one in the movie, but Yeah, so she's like this plucky and determined figure. She's the hero of the movie, basically.
But how? But if you really, I mean, hitting the brakes on that, what an insult! I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So she's educated. She's gone through the process just like anybody else. But again, this is a movie, a product of its times, where the chauvinism is coming through, and it's almost the beginning of really the feminist movement that was taking place, and it's really driving that point. But it's really an insult for her to be belittled like that, and then even where her relationship is being discussed amongst her peers, and it's just when you think about where we've come a long way, I think, in society, but we still have a long way to go, and it's really just really scary when you think in terms of that, though.
Yeah, like anytime she says anything, they keep telling her to relax. They keep
Yeah.
trying to give her Valium, and at one point,
Right.
she finally gets slipped the Mickey. But
Yeah.
that's all set up with the conversation they have at the beginning with Michael Douglas in his apartment. That the whole conflict of the movie and all the tensions are all laid out in that exchange there. Like he wants her to go get him a beer, because he wants to take a shower and she wants him to. He wants her to make her dinner. And he goes, no. She goes, no. I want to take the shower. And she goes into the shower, and then he stands there watching her through the shower door. And
shower scene,
right? And he's waiting for this like pleasant night, with her. And she's like, don't call me honey. And she winds up leaving. And he's like, oh, why are you so cold? Why are you so cold? You know what I mean? It's like it's all on her. Even though it comes out, she had worked just as hard as he had that day. They had both pulled kind of all-nighters on their shifts. And
I think she's accusing him of being political.
Right. Oh, well, it's all about the politics too, about they went on big time about that. And that's kind of what I think kept him in line for so long, is because he was in line for this promotion.
Right.
And he was trying to play ball with all of these other doctors. And he kept saying, well, you don't care at all. You don't care at all. And she says, all you care about is the politics. And yeah, it's a very interesting movie, actually. And I don't know. I was actually impressed watching it that I was getting all these. It's not like it's so subtle, you know what I mean? But it's like, oh, wow, I actually picked up on all the subtext in this entire movie. Because at the beginning, I thought, are they doing this on purpose? But by the end, by a certain point, you go, they're definitely doing this on purpose. Even the title Coma, the fact that everybody, that all of these characters are unconscious of what's going on around them, at a point, it kind of is like the movie itself. Like nobody's conscious of.
Well, exactly. It's not only I hate to say it. It's not only the living dead that aren't conscious, but it's also aren't conscious of what's happening. But it's also the living aren't conscious of what's happening. It's happening all behind the scenes, and it's happening very covertly. It's very subtle. Liz is commenting. She said, thinking about the doctor's attitudes, there was a really good quote in the film Malice. Alec Baldwin says, "You ask me if I have a God complex. Let me tell you something. I am God."
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
The old Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly.
The hubris. Yeah.
No,
it never ends well.
No, exactly.
So, yeah, but I mean, I could just go on and on and on about underlining the feminism and the abuses against her in the movie. I love the fact that when she goes up the ladder to follow the trail of what's causing all of this to happen in the hospital, that when she discards her heels or her clogs or whatever in the pantyhose, it's like how much more blatantly symbolic can you get, that she's discarding these symbols of femininity, the traditional symbols,
which was causing her to slip, right, or to slide, and she couldn't move. Yeah, she's going up the ladder, right, and she wasn't able to go up the ladder as long as she was carrying those items that were a sign of her femininity. Yeah, maybe, it's very symbolic.
Maybe we're pushing too hard there, but I think it's all there.
Yeah, it's true. It reminds me, and I don't know if my mom's watching tonight, but there was a circumstance when I was 10 years old. I'm not going to mention the doctor's name, but what happened was I was actually had like a buildup of wax in my ears, and it was affecting my hearing. And the doctor would come in, and he would like look into my ears and see if how they were and everything. And what he did was, he had this. It was almost like a probe, and to get the wax out. And I screamed because it hurt so much. And my mom pretty much just told him to stop. And my mom, she's like 5 foot and, not very, imposing. He was so bent out of shape, and he was like, and I'll just say he wasn't from this country, and he was just so insulted and was almost like, you're going to have to go to another doctor. Anyway, what wound up happening was they prescribed drops to break up the wax, and I had to have those for like a week. And it took, it broke them up. It's still, he had to go back in, and I went back a week later, and it was sunny too, because he like looked at my mom, and he just, but things were cool. And also I should also inject in there too. My dad was with my mom, and my dad wound up talking to the doctor too. And that was what kind of helped to, smooth things out.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that, he was, probing and going, doing that. And I remember, it was funny too. I remember my dad saying, think about something that makes you, that it's a pleasant memory or whatever. And ironically enough too, it was, I was thinking of something from Space 1999, like flying with Alan Carter, you know what I mean? Or something like that. And it was, yeah, I know. All roads lead to Space 1999, Ross. What can I say? But the point is, it's just that it was like he was being questioned, and it was like, God forbid, you question the doctor, you can't do something like that.
Yeah.
And, but anyway, it's something that I never forgot. And I remember it like it was yesterday, because it was traumatic, going through something like that. And he did not want to be questioned, and being questioned by a woman, forget it. You know what I mean? But
right. But your dad does it, and he listens. You know what I mean? But like you say though, your mom's 5-footish, and in this movie, Genevieve Bujold is a diminutive woman. I guess in the novel, she's a larger, blonde woman. She's not small, so she's even more or less intimidating. You know what I mean in the movie, and it's because taken physically, most men are more powerful than a tiny woman. You know what I mean? But you see in the film and in the story, I guess, that she's able to kind of put the pieces together and outthink, the other guys, despite the fact that they keep trying to, push her off as being hysterical or paranoid or what have you. In fact, in one scene, Richard Widmark, who's the head of surgery, head of the hospital there, she leaves the room, and he goes, "Women." It's like, and that just sums up the movie right there. He's just, everybody in the movie's like, "Oh, these women."
No, exactly. Ross, I'm noticing it too. You seem to be freezing up, but also a couple other people said that you're freezing up as well.
Well, I can't help it. I'm better that way, actually. Yeah.
Claudia said that's my go-to also, Roy. Flying Eagle. And Matt, of course, came back with his Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan comment. Then they pulled out the crazy book. Way to go, Matt. Way to go. All roads lead to Star Trek also.
The SETI eel.
The eel. Oh, man. Thanks, Matt. I'll have good dreams tonight. Hey, Brendan. Brendan's joining us. Welcome. Good to see you out there. So, yeah. But interesting. I mean, it is a very good plot, though. I mean, and it starts, and let's summarize a little bit about the plot. I've actually been hearing from some viewers, Ross, that kind of miss us going through the plot a little bit.
I was just hearing how great it was when we got away from the plot.
The last plot, Ross. The last plot.
Yeah.
But I mean, all of this essentially starts because Genevieve Bujold's friend. Now, Genevieve Bujold is playing Susan Wheeler, and her close friend, who is actually played by Lois Chiles. Her name is Nancy Greeley. Lois Chiles, a year later, would go on to be the James Bond woman in Moonraker. She was the Bond girl. So I thought that was kind of cool seeing her in this film as well too. But
Yeah.
essentially, she's supposed to have a surgery, and she's a little. And this is the scary part. She's a little nervous about it, and Genevieve Bujold is trying to comfort her and telling her that it's not going to be, it's routine and everything's going to be all right. And then what happens is essentially she winds up going into a coma on the table after they've done the procedure.
And what's the procedure? She goes in for an abortion.
Right. Yes.
So, I mean, and the way it's actually a very good scene because it starts out very routine, and you got the chatter between the people working in the operating room and everything. And it just seems like, but something's going to happen. It's just like,
it's the build up to it.
It's the build up to it. But yeah, I mean, it underlines the whole tension with the male female thing and the feminism. And I mean, the way it's filmed, I just feel like it's almost like she's being punished for this,
right?
And in fact, they made some kind of remark at some point. I can't remember quite what it was, but they, it was like kind of like it was. Oh, a couple of times they mentioned throughout the movie about morality too. It's like it's not our job to question, to discuss the morality of this or what have you. We'll let the how did what's her name Elizabeth Ashley? How did she put it? Was it we'll let the people decide, or we'll let the courts decide, or we'll let society decide, or something like that? But we're not here. Yeah, we're not here to be moral about this or what have you.
Which they weren't by any means. I mean,
yes, but
her character, my God.
Yeah, but they moralized. But as far as they went, it's like, it was like science. It was good for and then, it's like this morally cloudy thinking. You know what I mean? We justify so much to ourselves. On a personal level, but especially on an institutional level. I mean, you have to make hard choices all the time,
right?
If you're running a country, or if you're running the military, or how it is. You got to make a decision about like how you're going to protect all these people, or how you're going to move these resources, or what have you. And you find out that I don't know, like the atomic bomb, for instance. Dropping the atomic bomb. It's like, how do you justify that? But somebody has to make, these decisions. And I'm not saying that it was right to do that, but, there's stuff like that all the time, from day to day when you're running. It's like, oh, do we have to drop the bomb today? But,
no, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit too.
Like how many lives are they going to save by doing what they're doing? Yeah, but
right. When he comes out, when he comes out and it comes all out, because she doesn't know who's behind all this. I mean, at first this happens, and to your point, and I wasn't even thinking that about what her procedure was. I was thinking of Tom Selleck. Yeah, she's going in for an abortion, which is in itself. And the other thing that's really scary is you never hear anything about you don't know about her husband or her boyfriend. It's really never seen. Nothing's ever discussed.
Well, we find out that her boyfriend he shouldn't know about it though. Or her husband can't know about it.
Right. But you would think, though, even after this has happened, what I mean?
Right.
He would show up or something because she dies. I mean, first she goes into a coma, and then what happens is she winds up dying. And it's like they don't pursue that avenue of it. But the film is going in a different direction because it's not so much about her. She's almost like the match that's lit that starts this, because then there's another patient that is having some kind of procedure, and then that patient dies, and it's very similar with it being a coma type situation.
In his case, it was for the cartilage in his knee or something, though.
That was Tom
Selleck. Yeah.
Tom Selleck. Yeah.
So, but he was also young and healthy, and mysteriously dies. And they say, well, it happens, it's like one in so many 100,000, but it's the anesthesia, and people react to it, and you never know. But but then they find out that so many people had died in the hospital or gone into a coma in the hospital. And later on, Genevieve Bujold figures out that it's all in the same room.
Yeah, room number 8.
Room number 8, which, by the way, apparently there were hospitals that took their room number 8s out because of this book and this movie.
Right.
Because people had anxiety about it. I guess it was like the 13th floor on the elevator.
Sure.
I'm not going to need for my procedure.
Yeah, exactly. So it really set the stage with that. And they tried to kind of veer her off, to your point earlier. She speaks to the chief surgeon, and that's Richard Widmark. Mm-hmm. And interesting enough, when this movie came out, I guess he was celebrating his 30th year as far as being an actor in the movies. Mm-hmm. Looking at him, Ross, I'm thinking Richard Widmark in this movie's got to be like, in his 70s, and he's younger than what they are today. He was only 62 in this film.
I know. It looked like Richard. I wondered, boy, did Richard Widmark, he must have like smoked like a demon or something, because he really looked like a piece of leather in this movie.
Yeah.
Pretty like a haunted piece of leather. Well, when he started out in the 40s, he always played a sociopath. He was like his first film, Kiss of Death. He memorably pushes an old woman down the steps and
you know what's hysterical? I always reference this movie, Kiss of Death, because when Vince and I went to a creation, I may have talked about this already on the show, but we went to a creation event. It was in 1990. It was at the Penta Hotel. Frank Gorshin was there, and he was doing his essentially, because he was in Star Trek. He was in Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. For folks out there to remember the race that was from Charon, they were white on one side, black on the other.
Black
and then you had, exactly, split in half. And then you had Lou Antonio, who was a character actor, and then he really went into directing later on. He's white on the side, black on the other. And it was a beautiful story, wonderfully done, about prejudice and how ludicrous being prejudiced is. And it was and they hated each other. And what happens is their entire planet destroys each other. They annihilate each other. And Frank Gorshin's character, Commissioner Veal, is in pursuit of Loci, who he says he's been pursuing for like X amount of years, and he wants to bring him back to be tried. And anyway, Frank Gorshin was there, and he not only talked about that, but he talked about his history, how he grew up, and he loved, going to the movies, and he grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and he would see these larger than life characters on the big screen, and he referenced and then what he was doing is, while he's telling the story and he's talking about the actors that made such an impression on him, he's doing these impressions of them, and he does a great Richard Widmark, and he said, he's pushing this woman down the stairs. And I always joke with Vince, because of, what's happened, to try to lighten him up with everything. And I'm always referencing that movie. But it's so funny that he's in this film.
Yeah, that was his first movie. So he always played a sociopath or a villain at the beginning, but somehow he went through this transformation where he became the hero. Like he, in all the military films and the Westerns that he did, he was always the hero then. So here he gets to like kind of revisit the slimier characters of the 1940s, although a little more subtle than some. He wasn't pushing any old ladies down the stairs in wheelchairs in this movie.
No, and it's interesting you brought up about the Westerns too, because Michael Crichton said this film is like a Western. It's like you got the bad doctors and you got the good doctors, and they're going against.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you want to look at if you want to try to transpose Outland onto this movie, it's kind of like you get the one good doctor or whatever. So yeah, I guess there are, but it has so much in common with, as I said, the paranoid thrillers of the 70s. I thought of the film almost like a cross between Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Soylent Green.
Sherry's favorite movie, Soylent Green.
Like the remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which was also very much in the mold of that
Now, when you say the remake, are you talking about the 78
Donald
version?
Sutherland one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of cross with Soylent Green. Had that vibe to it. So, I don't know what Charlton Heston was doing. They really should have had him in this movie.
Well, they originally wanted Paul Newman for
Right.
the part in this.
The studio did.
Yes, and he fought for that, and it would have changed the entire dynamics of the film.
Instead of Genevieve Bujold, they didn't want a woman in the lead. So it just illustrates, the point of the movie. It's like, oh no, there's no institutional sexism here. But get rid of the woman so we can get Paul Newman to play her part. But thankfully, Crichton stuck to his guns, and although Farrah Fawcett was another one they had considered for this, I guess she couldn't do it because she was doing Charlie's Angels.
Yes, and Julie Christie was the first choice.
Julie Christie was first choice. Julie Christie might have been good. Farrah, I don't know. Nothing against Farrah, but it's like you needed somebody who seemed, physically smaller than everybody else. To really make it that much more suspenseful.
I could see Julie Christie in the role for this movie.
Yeah, I could too. Yeah, but I think Bujold did a good job. Yeah,
she did. I think she definitely did. One movie Julie Christie that's kind of sci-fi that we haven't done is Demon Seed.
Man, you mentioned that to me before once. Don't make me do Demon Seed so close to this one. I'll hunt you down. Yeah, we did kind of. Yeah, Roy and I, we go through suggestions. We say, well, what should we do? And we give each other lists of stuff. And we talk about it, and some movies just kind of get kicked down the road indefinitely. And Demon Seed's kind of one of them on my side. Yeah, for Roy, it's like every movie I suggest. I had him for a while, like when we did Devil Rides Out and stuff. I had you for a while, but then when I started slipping in things like Santa Claus versus the Devil, I think I lost my credibility. Now there's no trust.
The trust has been broken, Ross.
The trust is broken.
Snapped in half like a number 2 pencil.
But Demon Seed is like on that scale, I'll do it eventually.
Oh boy, it's all
not
good.
Soon.
But not soon enough.
If we do the show for about 25 years, I'll do it.
There we go. Sue's putting some tidbits out there. She's saying there are a couple of more Star Trek connections. Richard Doyle was a Bajoran fanatic and Bajoran officer and Obsidian soldier in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, the Fallen video game in 2000.
Huh.
She's also saying about Lance Legault was Captain Turmok on Star Trek Next Generation in the season 2 episode The Emissary. Yeah, in fact, good points, Sue, and thanks for sharing that. Lance Legault, I saw him immediately, and right away I thought of Battlestar Galactica because he was in 3 episodes. The one, he played one character, and he was an uncle. Well, he was the brother of a woman that on the planet that Apollo winds up crashing his Viper on, because what happens is he runs out of fuel. It was called the Lost Warrior, and he was in that episode. And then there was the episodes with the what was it, Nomen, the Balurian Nomen, and they pretty much they're huge hulking guys, and then they have their hoods on, and they look like Cro-Magnon type of characters, and he's one of the 3 of them, and he talks like this, and it's really sinister. So anyway, yeah, he was in that.
I was thinking of 3 Days of the Condor in this one with the assassin.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, Max von Sydow.
I love that movie. That's
another one of your 70s paranoid thrillers.
Yep. That's a great film, though.
Yeah.
Tragic, but great. Jeff Rubel is in the house. Jeff, welcome. And Jeff, happy belated birthday. I hope you had a nice birthday this week. Glad you're able to join us. Everybody wish Jeff a happy birthday.
You missed the Soylent Green reference. Yeah, DNC was awful. Thank you, Brett. Well, that doesn't make me eager to do it.
Nah. Jeff, you're thinking of is always talking about the Omega Man.
Oh, Omega Man, the other Charlton Heston. Yeah. But I maintain Charlton Heston should have been in this movie. He could have played Widmark's part, but not as well, I bet.
No, I could see that, but I think Whitmark would be better.
Yeah. As soon as you get Heston in there, he'd be chewing the scenery. He'd steal the movie.
Well, there you go.
Not in a good
Whitmark, I
way.
actually saw in another movie just recently. It was a 1983 film, and it was oh my
83, you
goodness,
said?
yeah, it was Against All Odds. He was in that.
Oh, was he in that?
Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, I saw it in the movies probably before I knew who Richard Widmark was. So I
yeah.
probably didn't recognize him. That's funny. Hmm.
And not James, James Wood was in that movie.
Right. Jeff
And
Bridges.
if I remember correctly, I think in the 90s or the 2000s, now I didn't look this up, so don't quote me on this, but I think there was a remake of Coma, and
There was.
I think he was in that though.
Oh, really? It was a mini series, I think,
Yes.
that they had done for TV. And in fact,
And
I don't know if Ridley Scott was involved with that. Like he
I think
produced
he
it or something.
was.
Yeah, so it's automatically crap.
Oh, nice.
Did you freeze?
Not an Alien fan, Ross? No.
No.
Did you?
I'm sorry. Did I say that? I thought I was frozen when I said that. I didn't know that was going to go out. I'm sorry. No.
Yeah,
I
wow.
thought
Okay.
I thought Alien was a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did somebody say something about Ridley Scott on the show? must not have been a Napoleon fan.
There you go. Matt said Ed Harris looked like he was having a ball cutting of the yeah.
Blubbery.
Yeah, of the organ.
Yeah, how about that? Ed Harris. This is his first movie.
First movie looks so young, and I knew he was in it, but when I was watching it, I didn't catch that was him.
Oh yeah, I caught
it. Jeff says, thanks much. At my age, it's all kind of a blur. Watch the Omega Man or not. But yeah, actually, I'm going to share some photos. And then, of course.
And I like The Duelists. That's another Ridley Scott film.
The Duelists, yes. There you go.
And Blade
Ross
Runner.
is trying to make points with Ridley.
I'm sucking
Scott.
up to Ridley in case he tunes in tonight. I want to let him know that I like 3 of his movies. Keep trying, Ridley.
And there's Richard Widmark with Tom Selleck, Lois Childs, and then there's Ed Harris.
Yeah, Ed Harris.
And then I put these photos up again. Interesting enough, too, what they did was when they filmed this movie, they actually knew that it was going to be going to television. So what they did was they actually had some scenes of the patients that were actually in this filmed where they weren't, is bare, I'll say, so it was appropriate for television broadcast. And even with the poster, they actually amended the poster just to make it appropriate for viewing.
It's ridiculous because when they're not covered up, you don't really see anything in the movie.
Right.
And in fact, we're supposed to perceive them as basically meat anyway. You know what I mean? They're not erotic scenes. So like, why bother? But
well, I think today it would be more, I think it would be, they wouldn't have done that, but I think back in the day, in the late 70s, I think that's probably why there was more censorship with that. I mean, what was it? NYPD Blue on, what was it, 1994?
Well, that was unusual. Yeah.
They started letting things go, and they made a big deal about it.
Yeah.
Dennis Franz.
But if anything, you got away with more in the 70s, in the movies anyway. I mean, you could say things and do things in PG movies that they wouldn't do. Well, it depends. It depends on what it is. It's like
this film should have been like an R film, or it would have been a PG-13 film today by today's standards.
Yeah. What was it rated? Was it a PG movie?
It was PG.
Wow.
So you're right about your point, Ross.
My point.
Your point.
I have no point. I have no point, Roy. Yeah.
Sue just brought up about some Star Trek references, so I wanted to share this. This was something that was brought up by a few people before. So all roads leading to Star Trek, and this was the major one. So she evidently had been on set, I guess, for 2 days, but she wasn't really handling being in the role. And I guess they tried to say that, she was a movie actress and they really didn't want to disclose, which was appropriate. But then I guess fast forward like 15 or 20 years later, because I think this pilot was filmed in 1995, and it pretty much came out that she just was having a problem handling the character. I mean, having to memorize 7 pages of dialogue, per day. It was just too much. And such an acclaimed actress too. I mean, with her credits and everything, not to take away, but it's just that television performing and then movie making are two totally different things. And yeah.
I got no comment on that other than the fact I was astonished she was going to be in Star Trek.
Yeah, I forgot that she was actually.
Yeah. So what was the other thing? I was going to say, all the 70s touches. Like a lot of the movie still holds up. You know what I mean? It's what's he say here? There's
another connection. I'll just leave it up there so folks can read it. Go ahead, Ross.
I just want to see what she has to say here. All right. Antedating Nichelle Nichols. Okay. All right. So he was.
Yeah, Sue wrote, or you forgot to mention my third Trek connection. Harry Rhodes was Saint Ernie Travers in the Moonstone episode of The Outer Limits. Wikipedia describes Rhodes' portrayal of Lieutenant Ernie Travers, who's a member of the Lunar Exploration Team, and intonating Nichelle Nichols' portrayal of a black member of a space exploration crew on the Star Trek. Rhodes was also McDonald on Conquest of the Planet of the Apes. Thanks for sharing, Sue.
Was he the therapist in this movie?
I'm not sure.
I don't know what part he played. I mean, there was, yeah. So, what was I going to say now? The 70s. There was a lot of the stuff that still holds up. It's still a thriller, still absorbing. But there's some stuff that's just very 70s, like the out of nowhere love montage that they throw in the middle of the movie, where it's just Genevieve Bujold and Michael Douglas, walking on the wharf, rolling around on the beach, having a wine and dinner as the music plays on the soundtrack, and it's like, why? And then she takes off to the aerobics class in the one scene.
Right.
All the men want to see it. Yeah, what's that?
That was earlier in the movie, though, wasn't it?
Yeah. All the men wanted to go see a therapist, but aerobics is good enough. work out all your anxieties doing aerobics.
So, Ross? What did you think of the writing of this film?
The writing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I thought it was. Are you saying like the actual writing or the structure of it, or the
themes?
Yeah? I thought they did a good job with it. Why were you going to pick it apart?
No, I was just curious. I was curious.
I thought it was well written, personally.
Okay.
I mean, it wasn't network,
No. Right.
But I mean, for a straightforward. I mean, was there anything in it that bothered you? I mean, other than the ludicrous thing of sending the hitman after her in the quarters of the hospital.
I just thought, well, that was a little,
yeah,
that was a little. I felt that was a little weak.
Yeah,
but it was just kind of, I don't know. How can I put it? It just seemed a little off. I mean, I get what they were trying to do, but
like I said, in the stuff they did, like in Michael Douglas's apartment at the beginning, I thought that was well done. Mm-hmm. Clumsier is when they have the custodian or whatever like lean over to her at one point in a crowded room and say, "Oh, I know how they did it."
Right.
Which automatically he's got a target on his back. Then this guy's going to meet a bad end.
Yeah, because then what happens is they pull back, the camera pulls back, and then you see Richard Widmark like looking over, and you see him, that he's talking with her, and then you even see, I think Rip Torn is looking in their direction. Yeah, it was a little too obvious, I felt. I don't know. I just
you know what it is, in part probably the actors were so good at handling, like I said, Michael Douglas and Genevieve Bujold in the apartment, Richard Widmark with his scenes, and definitely Elizabeth Ashley when they go to the Jefferson Institute, or when she goes to the Jefferson Institute and she delivers her her little monologue there. They do it so well that even if the writing is possibly shaky, they kind of sell it.
They
You know what I
sell
mean?
it.
I'm not noticing that it's clunky. But yeah, as soon as you got somebody like the electrician in there or whatever, that it's like what's I don't know. I mean, there is some stuff that the overall story I think is really well done, but there are a few instances that kind of stretch credibility a little bit.
Right.
How does Michael? She does the whole thing. She blows the cover off of everything, but of course Michael Douglas has to be the one to at the end to rush through and kind of save everything, and then suddenly the cops are there. It's like, wait a minute.
Well, that's the other thing that
Yeah.
it's like, how did the police get there so quickly? I mean, the police could have been in the hospital. I get it. But here he was running, all over, trying to
Right.
get to the point. She's going under, the anesthesia, and he's trying to make sure that he's able to, cut that line so she doesn't get the carbon monoxide. And
Right.
then he gets back, and then all of a sudden the cops are there. It's like,
Right.
how did that?
Right. It's like very quickly resolved. And I was thinking, it's so, they spend the whole movie setting it up like this, and then they go and they have him save the day. But really, when you think about it, she does it herself because she goes through the whole thing earlier, and it's because of her that he's able to do what he does. You know what I mean? She figured it all out. So, but otherwise, it would be kind of a cheat that Michael Douglas is the one that's going to be the one to take everybody down.
Yeah, and he wouldn't have known if it wasn't for her, because
right.
Especially when he hears they're originally going to operate in operating room number 7, they said that it was prepared. Richard Widmark's character is like, no, I want, number 8. And then it's like the light bulb, you could see it in Michael Douglas's eyes goes off that, uh-oh, you know what I mean? Something's going on.
Yeah, because she's been talking about that, about
right. And then she presses his pager, so the pager goes off, because Michael Douglas is supposed to be in surgery with Richard Widmark while this is going on. So he needed an excuse to get out. So he pretends he's on a phone call, and that gives him the diversion that he needs in order to do what he needs to do.
Yeah, I wonder if by having him in there, if it kind of gives Widmark the airtight alibi, or if there's anything that's funny that goes on. It's like, oh, if you're going to go down too because you were here when it happened, kind of thing.
Right.
And you have to help cover it up. But yeah, it is kind of. I guess you keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. But really, the quote that came to mind from a 70s movie watching this was actually "Follow the money." It was like All the President's Men. It's like, well, who's responsible for all of this? And really, it was like follow the money.
Well, and then the other point, when she's drugged, because she's essentially putting everything together. The only thing that she doesn't realize is that he's Dr. George, because there's the other Dr. George is
right.
Rip Torn, but it's actually this, it's Richard Whitmark's character that is the Dr. George that is behind this entire scenario. And as she's drinking what he gave to her and is starting to, not only be drugged, but then she's having abdominal pain, which is the reason that supposedly she's going to go in for the surgery. He's going off and pretty much giving his God speech why, he's doing what he's doing, and, it needs to be done, and this is the way of the land, and yada, yada, yada. And it's just, again, he's thinking he's on the mountain, and everybody, looking down on everybody, and he's got total control, and he's able to dictate who lives and who dies. And it's very disturbing.
That was another very Hitchcockian scene. I mean, for one thing, she's laboring under the suspense because, she's got drugged, and she's laboring under that and can hardly even speak, to Michael Douglas later. But as she's looking at the wall, as she's slipping under, and she's making the connection who this Dr. George is by looking up at all of his certificates and everything. I thought that was something you might have seen in a Hitchcock movie.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. Yeah. Another good point, Ross.
No, it was a good point, but it's an observation. So
Matt commented that Genevieve Bujold is 81 and still looks great.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you speak French. She's actually Canadian, though, from what I understand, right? She was born in Canada, I think. But she made a
Yeah,
lot
in
of
fact,
French movies. She lived
right, and
in
that was one of the
Paris.
things that they talked about, that if she had been the captain of a starship, she would have been the second one to be from Canada, like William Shatner.
Well, there you go. But she was French Canadian.
French Canadian, yeah.
Yeah.
Although he does speak fluent French, though, William Shatner.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there you go. And knows Henry VIII or Henry V. Henry V was the play where he stepped in
Brennan
for
said
Christopher Plummer. Yeah.
she was cute in The King of Hearts.
Cute as a bug.
In the 1960s, she starred in international art films too. La Guerre as Finis and The War is Over in 1966. I mean, she has a long
Yeah.
list of credits.
I think
Definitely
End of
done.
a Thousand Days was her breakout. And then she started getting in Hollywood movies after
She
that.
was nominated for an Academy Award and won a Golden Globe Award. And that was the film, well, you just mentioned it, Henry VII, too. But then she really started doing the television movies, or the movies that were later on television, I should say.
Yeah. And we mentioned Elizabeth Ashley earlier, and most of her success was on stage. She was a Tony winner, but she was great as Mrs. Emerson. She was almost this, you didn't know what you were watching at first, the way she was delivering her lines. This is like going to branch off into some weird Stepford Wives kind of subplot that we don't know about, because, she just delivers everything so mechanically. I mean, not like a robot, but, so fluidly and without emotion and matter of factly. Yeah. So.
Yeah. Sue also commented another Trek factoid, Gary Graham. In fact, I wanted to talk about him later. He actually passed away this. Do you remember the show Alien Nation back around 1988? Did you ever watch that?
I saw the movie. I didn't see the TV series.
He was in the television series, and I didn't actually watch it either, but I think I did see the movie as well. But he was a recurring character on that show, and sadly, he passed away. He was only 73, and he had I believe he had a heart attack. But Sue indicated that in the event that Paramount got cold feet as far as casting a woman for the role, he was under consideration for the part of Janeway. It would have been, Captain Janeway. And then also he was one of the final choices for Captain Sisko, but then that went for Deep Space Nine, but that went to Avery Brooks.
So wait a minute, they were going to have cold feet about having a woman as late as 20 years ago or whatever it was. 15
95.
years ago. 15.
95.
Oh, it was 95. Is that long ago?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Time is, but still, really. Jeez.
Yeah, I actually didn't know about that. So she just shared that.
Well, I remember it was a big deal that Janeway was the first, female captain, but
But it's interesting
finally
too.
getting around to it, I think, at that point. Yeah.
She would have been the first female captain in a series. There were female captains that were in the movies, but to have it centered around television series like that.
Because at that point, it seemed like a foregone, if they made a series in the 90s, you would think that, it was time. You know what I mean? Would there be any doubt, at that point? But, so they would get cold feet about something like that. Well, I guess they got cold feet about the woman or the Vulcan back in the 60s. So,
yeah,
one of them had to go, Roy.
Yep, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Yeah.
But yeah, the 90s, it was 30 years later. So, I don't know. Yeah.
Now it's 60 years ago that the first pilot of Star Trek was filmed. My God.
Yeah.
64. That's crazy. So, yeah. But no, definitely. I mean, we talked about Michael Crichton last week in regards to being the director, and that's why we went with this as far as a movie. But
yeah, and again, he wasn't the guy who wrote the book.
Right.
It was he just wrote the screenplay and directed it. But there were a lot of things in it that were Crichton-esque. He was friends with Robin Cook, and they had similar, concerns in their fiction. So, and it's he did so much in many of most of his stories about the abuses of science or medicine, or what could go wrong, kind of things. Like he did Westworld and Jurassic Park and Andromeda Strain. We saw, or we did that at some point. So yeah, it was this thing. Apparently he was writing from the time he was in medical school. Like right when he got out, he was already publishing. Under pseudonyms.
Wasn't Michael Douglas one of the pseudonyms too?
Michael Douglas was one of the pseudonyms, yeah, at some
Yeah.
point. But he had already written something like 12 books or something before he used his own name. He would just crank them out. He said that they were like, he called them alternatives to like in-flight movies. He said they would take as long to write as it would be for somebody to read them. And he said it would be more rewarding than watching an in-flight movie. But that's how he took the early books that he wrote. It wasn't until he wrote, was it Terminal Man or Andromeda Strain? I can't remember which one it was that he wrote first, but that was the one that took him 3 years to write it. And he took a little more care with it.
I had forgotten that he did the Andromeda Strain too, because it's such a long time ago. But
I know, and he died fairly young. I think he was 66 or something.
Yeah, he was only 66 when he passed away.
But he'd been around for so long. He was already a name by the time he directed Westworld.
Yeah.
So
and Westworld was 50 years ago, and he didn't die that long ago. I think he died in, what was it, 2008 maybe he passed away?
Yeah, longer ago than you would think, but not that long ago.
Yeah, he died like 16 years ago. So if he was alive today, he'd be like 82. So
yeah, and he co-created ER. That was a big deal.
That's right, Ross. Yeah.
Yeah. So
he really, it's interesting how he really kept attached to the medical, in regards to his stories.
Hey, you write what you know.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
And it really formed he never practiced medicine. But he obviously went to school and kept his ears open when he was doing his residency in the hospital. So it gave him fuel for a lot of his fiction.
Yeah.
So,
and then Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, and he did do things that weren't related to medicine or even science. I mean, he did the Great Train Robbery that was made into a movie with Sean Connery and Donald Sutherland. It was a lot of fun. Score by Jerry Goldsmith. He had some other things that were not what you would expect from Michael Crichton. But I mean, there were some other things to say about the movie itself. I wanted to say, are we jumping to Jerry now? Is that where we're going to?
No, go ahead. I didn't mean to. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. We were talking about, you were talking about Elizabeth Ashley. We were talking about the Jefferson Institute. We were talking about, I brought up the thing about certain lies that we tell ourselves so that we can kind of, come to terms with morally cloudy thinking kind of things. But also, we find out, if you haven't seen the movie and you want to watch the movie and you're worried about spoilers, shut it off right now because I'm going to say some stuff. But the whole thing with auctioning the body parts off to you find out it's so much bigger than something that's a scheme for Richard Widmark to make money, because they have open houses for these doctors to come in from everywhere to view the facility. And you find out that they're having these auctions to sell the body parts, and they're going all over the world. It's not just, and they're going to the highest bidder or whoever is deemed most worthy, because somebody happens to have, their aristocratic connections, or they're the son of so-and-so. And what
was interesting too, Ross, the way it was being done on the computer. And again, this is 1977, 78 when this came out and was being produced.
Yeah.
And it's this whole network that's set up for specifically doing this. And they're almost like joking about it too, the way they're going about it, about the bids and everything. And you're right. It's not this little type of covert operation that's going on. This is like worldwide, which
Yeah.
is in itself
Yeah.
very scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And the accessibility is ranked by privilege,
Mhm.
which is like, I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
It's like, you see it all the time with the medical care. If you can't afford to pay for it,
Right. If you don't have the
you're,
health insurance,
you're going to
you're
the
following
clinic,
along. Yep.
good luck. Yeah. And lots of red herrings in the movie. You talked about Dr. George, between
Yep.
Rip Torn and Richard Widmark. Um, so
Oh, the other one that immediately comes to mind is that when she gets to the apartment and she's trying to enlist, the help of Michael Douglas, and she's telling him how much she loves him, and that she's glad that he's there for her, and then he's telling her, just relax, go in the other room, and then the next thing you do is you hear him on the phone and saying, she's here, I'm going to keep her calm and I'm going to keep her out of the way. Right away you think that he's actually speaking to the boys at the hospital,
right,
which is another red
absolutely.
herring. Yeah.
Absolutely. And he's making her the cup of tea. Would you like me to make you a cup of tea? So you think that, he's going to slip her
Right.
because he wants to get it. Because first he offers her a Valium and she says no. He says, how about a cup of tea? So you think he's going to drug her, and he's on the
Right.
phone with the, it's just foreshadowing, because that's exactly what happens with Widmark, later on in the movie. So yeah, perfect. Yeah, absolutely. With the red herring. So, and we already talked about it. I already mentioned Elizabeth Ashley's speech on morality, and so you get not only the fiction's not only about these technological possibilities in Michael Crichton's writing, but also the, as he put it, like the socio-ethical problems associated with this stuff. And there was certainly some pretty muddy ethical waters in this film. But I think that's mostly the stuff I wanted to touch on.
Oh, the other thing too is talking about Elizabeth Ashley. One of the things that comes up is when she says about the staff that they're being there, and it's like there is no staff. It's
Yeah,
just kind of
yeah,
it's very creepy. It's like it's just the living dead.
right, right. And basically, Genevieve Bujold has to, break out of the Death Star all on her own.
Right, right.
Because she does the Nancy Drew, pulls the Nancy Drew, and breaks off from the group, and parallels to leave in the stock market. Yeah, she peels off from the group and does her own exploring there. And yeah, they find out on the security cameras. Takes them a long time to find out, though, doesn't it? She's
It
on the
really
camera
does.
so many times, but the guys are always eating a sandwich or smoking.
And then they try to shut down the entire place, and then she makes them think that she's actually out on the ledge, and she really
Yeah.
isn't. And then the best escape for her, though, is when she jumps onto the ambulance that is transporting the organs, and she goes onto the roof
I
that's
know.
headed to the airport.
And there was so much stuff, and by then you were getting so much of the parallels. The people being treated like meat, worse than cattle.
Right.
With the harvesting of the organs and the as I said, the one thing where they put the brain on the on the on the lunch meat.
That was bad. Yeah, and what's interesting is too, Michael Crichton said that he really wasn't trying to skeeve people out with this, and wasn't trying to influence how they felt about hospitals, and basically he did just that.
Yeah, and it was restrained. It wasn't bloody
Right.
necessarily, but it was just the
It could have
whole
been
the whole
worse.
the whole concept was gross.
Yeah.
Um, and there was a movie out a few years earlier called The Hospital. I don't know if you ever saw that, with George C.
Yeah.
Scott, and that was all about corruption in the hospital and all the crazy stuff that goes on in the mix-ups. After you watch that movie, you don't want to go to the hospital either. So it was out there. Nobody trusted institutions anymore in the 70s. Yeah, and nothing got better. What's that?
Nothing got better.
Yeah. Now the 70s are like Edenic. They're like, it's like looking back to Eden compared to what we've got now.
Well,
Uh,
Brennan even said it made me afraid to be an organ donor. Yeah.
well, yeah.
Did that to a lot of people. And that actually happened. They saw after this movie had been released, there was a decline in that because of that, which is sad. Yeah.
I don't
Because
think
a lot of
anybody
people,
likes. Yeah,
I was going to say, a lot of people have saved, helped save lives, by doing that.
sure. I don't think anybody likes to go to the hospital.
No, no, it's not
Yeah.
on the top 10 favorite list. I don't
Yeah.
think either. But
And one other thing that's interesting, but then we can go to Jerry Goldsmith, is did you notice all the green in the movie? I don't know if you
no,
realize when you go into older hospitals, when you go into older facilities, these it used to be when you went to the doctor or the dentist or school, even there was all this
yeah,
green on the walls and stuff. This is all like surplus left over from World War II. They had so
okay,
much of this paint and so much of this pigmentation left over from the war that people just basically used it for decades for all of these government buildings and for public service buildings. So
interesting.
yeah, I don't know if you remember when you went to school when you were a kid, that kind of green was everywhere.
I It's funny. The one building, the one school that I went to when I was in kindergarten, that would have been in 71. They actually wound up demolishing the building because I think they determined it wasn't
all,
safe. It was like
all
lead,
asbestos and lead, right?
asbestos and lead and everything. And then they were opening the other school, which was Frank W. Gavilac, and it was supposed to. What was going to happen was it was supposed to open in 71, but there was I think there was like a flood or something, and it got delayed a year, and then they wound opening it in 72. So it would have just celebrated its like 50th anniversary, like what, 2 years ago. But anyway, that school where I went for kindergarten, it was just like this old building, and I just remember it being it was just very dingy. I have like these like I don't know, like memories of it just being very dark there. I mean, obviously there was lights and everything, but it was just like something that was just like out of time. It was
It's
just
what made you strong, Roy. And all that asbestos and lead, that's what would have saved us from nuclear attack during the Cold War.
oh, there you
So,
go.
yeah, that's
I
why
guess
they
that
put
would
it
have
in
been
there, Roy. Yeah.
it probably would have been one of the bomb shelters, Ross.
Yeah. When they had those fire drills or whatever, the
Yep.
air raid drills, and you had to get under the desk or lay down on the hallway. Yeah.
Do you recall doing that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Did you do that or not?
I think at Phillipsburg High we did it once or twice, but I
Yeah.
don't have like an ongoing
Yeah.
recollection of that.
We
Just a
did it in
couple times.
elementary school at March School on College Hill. They would do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So they were determined to save our asses during nuclear assault. Go out and lay like a tuna in the hallway or lie.
There you go.
So
In fact, what they did was they had us go by our lockers. So I guess like, God forbid if something happened. Okay, Roy's at locker, who's the person that by locker number 147. And it's really crazy. I haven't thought about that in years and it just came to me. It's like
oh yeah, is that
the
what it
locker
was?
number. It was 147, yeah.
Maybe they wanted you to get inside or something. Like nuke the fridge.
What,
We all
like one of
survived with
Indiana Jones?
our lead lined
And
lockers. Yeah.
like the Indiana Jones movie back in 2008.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh boy. One of the things I wanted to bring up too, Ross, was the building that they did for the Jefferson Institute
Yeah.
was the headquarters for the Xerox Corporation. I thought that was pretty interesting. Of all things.
Well, how much ominous architecture did we have in that era? You know what I mean? They called the style brutalism, which cracked me up. Cracked me up because I always take it as like a post Bauhaus kind of thing, which is what it was. But I never heard the term brutalism before.
A brutalist style building. What?
It's like, yeah, I want my house built brutalist, please.
What the heck is that?
It's the coldest style you can imagine. But that combined with Jerry Goldsmith's music, you knew it was no good.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly, Matt. Exactly. I was totally thinking of the school that Matt and I went to in the 8th and 9th grade. It looked exactly like the Jefferson Institute.
Now, isn't that in Forks Township?
It is, and it's monstrous now. It was huge when we went, But
I know exactly where that's at because I've actually
yeah,
back years ago I used to take take walks through there in Forks, and it does have that. I can see that what you're saying in regards to the style. But interesting enough, though, to your point, because I haven't driven by there, like it's probably been like over 30 some years. Just recently, just I went by there and I was like, what the heck happened? And it's like a
it's yeah.
city.
It's like 4 times bigger than it was when we went there. Yeah, they built
Oh
all
my
these extensions on it.
god!
I went through
Yeah,
on New Year's Eve, and of course there were 2 cops in the parking lot.
there you
And
go.
my initial, I just went with it. My initial thought was like, oh great, they're gonna pull me over. And I thought, well, what are they gonna do? I'm 57 years old. It's, if I were 20, I'd be in trouble. But they're not gonna give me a hard time.
Matt
So
said exact same slanted windows. Yeah.
yeah, before we blew them out. Yeah.
Jeff said brutalism taught at the Genghis Khan School of Architecture.
Absolutely. What kind of architectural movement was that? I never even heard of it.
God,
I
I don't
thought
know
I
where.
knew something. Yeah.
Yeah, I never heard of that. My God.
They made that up.
Well, it's interesting too about these, the special architecture. The Star Trek episode from which is Operation Annihilate. They filmed scenes of the planet Deneva. That was done at the oh my god, it's escaping me. It was the somebody help me out there that's a big Trek fan. I am having a mental block on that, and I should know this. This should be I wouldn't even have brought it up. It should be at the top of my mind. It was the anyway, the architecture is very unique in that episode of Operation Annihilate. If anybody has seen the episode, Sue, you would know. But anyway, it just kind of coincides with what we're talking about in regards to this film, and I just wanted to mention it. But the TRW building, that's what it was. I just said.
So the building they used for this movie was right outside Boston, I guess. They filmed a lot of it around Boston.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of shooting in Massachusetts. Yeah. TRW campus, Northrop Grumman Aerospace Systems in Redondo Beach, California. Oh, there we go. I knew it would come to me. Jeff is saying that they designed it with clubs in regards to what we were talking about before.
Yeah, we could go on for.
Where's Linda? Linda's out there tonight.
Oh boy, who knew that the side the digression on brutalism would be the best part of the show.
Yeah, we always digress.
Some funny comments.
But anyway, going on to Jerry Goldsmith. He's the man. He's the man.
He's the man. We just talked about Jerry last week, and I had mentioned last week that he scored a lot of Michael Crichton projects. And I mentioned, of course, what was the one what did we do last week?
Runaway.
Did Runaway. Thank you,
Runaway.
Did Runaway. I don't know that. I don't think he did Westworld, and he certainly didn't do Jurassic Park because John Williams got a hold of that. It was Spielberg, but he did do. He did do. Oh, Zardoz. Woohoo! She's out there.
Linda's out there.
He did do the Great Train Robbery, and he did Congo, and he did one I forgot to mention last week, which was the 13th Warrior, which I don't know if you've ever seen this. Probably not, because you seem to be very anti-Viking. Since I keep wanting to do the Vikings, and you keep giving it a thumbs down. But the 13th Warrior was based on a novella by Michael Crichton called Eaters of the Dead. And I saw a trailer for this at some point in Philadelphia for this movie, Eaters of the Dead. And I said, wow, this looks really good, because it's all like Vikings fighting like some unseen, some murky kind of, like, what are they fighting? Like zombies or fighting vampires? I don't know what the hell they're fighting. But it turned, and then I never heard anything about it. I kept waiting for it. Antonio Banderas was in it, and it disappeared. So I don't know if it got put on the shelf or what, but then it emerged a few years later as The 13th Warrior. They dropped the title Eaters of the Dead. And yeah, so Antonio Banderas plays a Middle Easterner, an Arab, and and it's set in the Middle Ages. So they're, light years culturally ahead of, the Northern peoples at that point. So yeah, he falls in with this band of Vikings, and they're fighting these these lost Neanderthals that are eaters of the dead. They're a cannibal race or what have you. But it's a fun movie, and Jerry Goldsmith did a great score for it. It's much better than the film actually. But yeah, 13th Warrior. Michael Crichton wrote it, and he also wound up directing it because I think who's the guy who directed Die Hard? McTiernan? Is that who it was?
I think so.
I always get him mixed up as another action director. Yeah, he was on it at first, and they took him off the project, and Crichton had to come in and finish it. So anyway, enough about the Goldsmith Crichton connection. For this film, as you said, unusually and extraordinarily, the music doesn't come in till the second half of the movie. In fact, I think it's right around the time that they see the Jefferson Institute that suddenly you get that really unstable kind of queasy music. And there are points where it's very abrasive and there you go, 13th Warrior, very underrated film. Yeah, I think it could have been, I liked it. I think it could have been even better than it was. And I think it seemed to have, couldn't get into it, huh? It seemed that, let's see, I can't remember what'd she say? Can't remember if she saw.
Linda said, I can't remember if I saw this movie or not. And I can't remember if I saw Cocoon or not. However, I always get the two of them mixed up in my mind. I imagine that is very, very wrong.
That would have been great if everybody had gone into a coma in Cocoon. But what was I saying? Oh yeah, I think that there was probably like a lot of stuff that went on in post-production with that movie. I think that they were just worried about saving the movie, and they wound up cutting, because what's his name's in it too. Omar Sharif is in the prologue to the movie, and I think his part must have originally had more to it, but I think they kind of condensed all the Middle Eastern part down to just like the pre-credits sequence, because there's a voiceover in there at some point, and I think covered a lot of stuff that they must have taken out just to get to the Viking part of the story.
Gotcha.
But what have you. But yeah, it's a fun movie. What are we talking about, Jerry? So yeah. I mean, there are parts of the film, the score that make you feel queasy. The other parts are very tense and atonal. There's no brass in the score. It's all strings, piano, percussion, and something called the Echoplex, which I touched on last week. They used it in Patton. I don't know if you remember the score to Patton, where they had that kind of bugle call that would fade. Like, yeah, they kept doing that all through the film, where it was like an electronically manipulated bugle. And they used that again. He used that again in this film. And that's about all I have, really. I mean, we know Jerry Goldsmith. We could sit here and throw back and forth like our favorite Jerry. I mean, he did the Star Trek movie. The first one. Yeah. And some of the later ones also, but Star Trek the Motion Picture, he did Planet of the Apes, Chinatown.
That would be a good movie to discuss.
Yeah, no science fiction, but I would love to see that movie again.
We could definitely do one-offs away from the sci-fi.
If you want a good 70s movie set in the 30s.
Yeah.
Were
you a fan of was it the China Syndrome also with
well, that was the other thing with you're talking well, fan, I don't know if fan is the right word, but yeah, it was a good movie. But yeah, again, Michael Douglas was involved with
Jane Fonda, Jack Lemmon. Yeah.
I remember the 3 Mile Island was
3 Mile Island, sure.
It opened, and then 3 Mile Island, it was like, what? The movie came out, and then we had this incident at 3 Mile Island. And I remember when it came on the news, it was the night we went to see Buck Rogers in the 20th
right, because that was in March of 79, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, so we had seen that at the State Theater on the night that they had the near meltdown at
and that's crazy.
3 Mile Island. Yeah.
So yes, that was that's exactly right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
So why did you mention?
No, when you mentioned the other film, it made me think
Oh,
of that movie.
Chinatown. Yeah, yeah,
Chinatown made me think of the China Syndrome. And to
yeah,
your point, it's not like you're a fan of the movie, but it was very well done, and
yeah.
it
It was
was a
well
great
done. Yeah,
drama. Yeah.
and talk about 70s Paranoia. I mean, Jerry did the score for Capricorn One, which we've done
Yes.
on this show. Which is another government cover up kind of thing.
Right.
Don't trust the no trust in institutions. What are we going to say, Roy?
I
Do you have a
forget. Go
comment,
ahead.
or you're just
No, go ahead.
okay? All right. Well, everybody knows Jerry Goldsmith, I think, by now. There's not a lot more to say. Last week I went into who he trained with and all this other stuff, but there's no point.
Did he do, no, I remember what I was going to say. Did he do The Black Hole?
No, it's John Barry did
John
it,
Barry. Okay.
which is kind of an uncharacteristic score for him. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, every once in a while John Barry did something uncharacteristic. He did Star Crash. So how did they get John Barry to do Star Crash?
That was your first movie, Ross.
Yeah, it
That we
was.
discussed on here.
Yeah, that we discussed. It's like, oh yeah, John Barry, the guy who did Out of Africa, and the Bond films, of course.
The
But,
Bond films, absolutely.
how do you go from that to Star Crash?
Linda said, I love The 13th Warrior. One of my favorite movie scenes is from that.
Oh my goodness! All right. Well, it's a great soundtrack.
And Claudia said, when you're done with that, can I give it to my daughter? Lots of laughs. And Buck Rogers. Yeah, what I was going to say about Buck Rogers is Buck Rogers is actually celebrating its 45th anniversary. I believe that movie was shot it was released in March, which ties into what you're saying about 3 Mile Island. That I believe that was released in March of '79. So, and then of course in September they did the series.
That show does not seem that long ago.
It doesn't. It does not.
Yeah, but I guess it is.
Yeah, I would like to talk about that show again. I mean, or maybe even discuss the movie. I mean, we discussed that was one of the first things that I actually covered on the show back in the day. I think it was like maybe the 5th or the 6th episode. But it would be interesting to talk about maybe just the movie, the pilot. The film that we saw.
Matt and I are always talking about Tiger Man in that film, and how in the movie you see him get kicked in the groin, but when they showed it on TV, he just kind of hemorrhages. You don't know what.
Well, you know what's really funny though too is they're showing Tiger Man in that, and he changes to a different actor. It goes from the one actor to the other actor in like right towards at the end. It's like you have this one actor playing Tiger Man, and then the next time you see him, he's different. It's like, wait a minute, what just happened here?
Yeah, I wasn't a real big fan of the show, to tell you the truth. I was willing to sit through the 90-minute movie or whatever it was. But.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I liked the first season. They revamped the whole thing for the second season, and I just
we're big on Hawk.
No, I like Tom Christopher's Hawk, and I like Barbara Luna was Corey in that, and it was kind of a bummer that they, not, again, spoiler alert, folks, but Corey dies, and then they bring her back in a later episode, but the second season only went like 13 to 14 episodes because the show was canceled mid-season, and it's just that they totally changed the characters, they changed the format.
Yeah.
Searching for the 13th tribe, it was reminiscent of what they were doing with Battlestar Galactica, but just going in a different direction. It was they took all the things that made Buck Rogers fun in the first year out of the second season, and it was a shame because it was it was on Thursday nights at 8:00 on NBC. So
yeah, I watched it from time to time. At that point, I think I was doing so much stuff with friends and stuff that I didn't watch it every week. But it was. I can say, I was getting tired of all the spandex and everything. It's just like, give me Buster Crab. I was into the old ones.
Yeah,
I know he did turn up as a guest in one of them.
He did. Yeah. He did. He played a character named Gordon, which was appropriate because he was also, Flash Gordon.
Right.
And they had a scene between the two of them where I think Buck says, Buster Crab says to Buck, I've been doing this way before you were born. And then Buck says, oh, you really think so? And then he goes, young man, I know so. and then he's got the grin on his face because, he was supposedly 500 years old, but then here he played, Buck Rogers.
Exactly.
So it was fun.
And Tarzan.
And Tarzan, that's right.
Yeah.
Brennan, yes, I didn't even want to say, I wasn't even going to go there, Brennan. Second season Buck Rogers versus second season Space 1999, which is better? Honestly, Space 1999, hands down. Yes. Yikes! Did they hire Freiberger for season 2? No, they didn't. It was actually, I think it was John Mantley was the producer for the second season, if I remember correctly. I don't know if he did the first, but yeah. In that case, the changes did not help for Buck Rogers.
Yeah.
Anyway, one thing I like to do on the show, one thing we've been doing over the course of the last year, trying to get back to it a little bit more so, is That's the Way It Was. Release date of this film was January 6th, 1978. And just as a few tidbits, the US #1 song was How Deep Is Your Love by the Bee Gees. And the #1 song back then in the UK was Mull of Kintyre, McIntyre. Mull of Kintyre? I'm probably butchering it. And it was by Girls' School. Never heard of that. And the movies in January 1978, as far as ranking, #1 was Saturday Night Fever, which came out in 77. #2 was Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and #3 was Star Wars. But if you
still
look
raking
at the
it
total,
in.
yeah, look at that total gross total though.
Yeah. Yep.
Star Wars
That's back when that money was serious.
Yeah, seriously.
Now you can't even make a movie for that price. But yeah, it's yeah, because that opened in May, the end of May, in the previous year. It was still #3.
But $307 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's a lot of money.
That's
Close
crazy.
Encounters, 116. That's nothing to sneeze at either. And then Saturday Night Fever, 94 million.
Yeah.
So
That also made a lot of money.
Yeah. But good stuff. So anyway, we're going to go to the shout out portion of the show. Folks, if you have any last minute comments that you want to pose, please post them. And then we will discuss them when we come back. And we will start with Sci-Fi Distilled, Mike and Mary Beth. They are on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They are actually going to be taking a break this coming Wednesday, but they will be back, and they are covering classics. And they will be discussing Forbidden Planet on February 6th, Wednesday, February 6th. So tune into them. That'll be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dennis, thanks for joining us. Lap to you as well. Great seeing you out there, Dennis. I want to give a shout out to my friend, Mr. Bill Scorado from Countrygate Theater. Countrygate is going to be back this season, folks, and they have not announced what their full season is going to be yet. However, if you are in the Belvedere Harmony area, you can come visit, and you can actually check out the website from anywhere, and the website is www.countrygate.org. Bill also has a website that you can go to for updates, and it's www.billscorado.com. So stay tuned for details. I can say that I am involved in a murder mystery production, which is going to be opening February 10th, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. It's going to be for 1 week, and that will be at the Belvedere Manor in Belvedere, New Jersey. Also, to give an update on the Eagle Has Landed documentary. The title has changed, folks, and it is now The Eagle Obsession. And Jeffrey Morris, who is actually the director and the producer of working on this film, is out there right now. And also, if you want to get updates on the film, all you have to do is go to www.eagledocumentary.com for updates. And very exciting. This is in progress. So stay tuned. Posting different information on Facebook, on the website as well. So definitely check that out. And I want to give a shout out to Captain Phil's Planet, WUSB 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. The captain's schedule is on Friday nights from 9 to 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tonight, the captain is doing a special show. He's having guests. It's going to be Mike and Mary Beth are actually going to be on. Paul Evanson, also Colleen Vermette. And Bruce is also going to be on there as well. And actually, they had sent me an invite. The captain had invited me to be a part of this, and their discussion is going to be for all mankind, and they're going to be talking about the different seasons of the show. Fantastic show. I just have not had the opportunity to watch it from beginning to end, and going to catch up next season when they are discussing season 5. But anyway, they are going to be broadcasting on the radio tonight. You can catch them at 9 p.m. Again, it's 90.1 FM, Stony Brook, New York. Also, I want to give a shout out to Trek Talking, a Star Trek podcast. We appreciate their support of this show. You can check them out on Facebook. Also, want to give a shout out to Martha for Studio One Thrift. Also, she has a new physical store location that is now open. We've been talking about this. You can get styling tips, quality affordable clothing for both men and women. Go to the website, www.studio1thrift.com. I have to say, I actually had a really good time. I was up there. Martha was doing actually like a photo shoot of having folks try, wearing a lot of the clothes that she's showcasing and has. So we did that last Sunday afternoon, and it was a lot of fun. Did it with some different folks. And so hoping the photos will be posted in the near future. You can definitely see them on the website. Definitely check out the website and a lot of the stuff that she has. Again, she will offer tips in regards to styling, as well as any questions that you might have about the merchandise that she is selling. And it's definitely affordable too. And second to last, want to give a shout out to London 1999, the 50th anniversary celebration convention. Mark your calendars, folks. It's between September 11th through the 17th of this year. So that is literally about 7.5 months away. So we are on the countdown for that. You can find out information in regards to the convention itself at www.space199950years.com. And then lastly, and not least, Ross, if you let everybody know what you got going on for your shows.
Oh, 2 things, by the way. Is if Linda's still out there, I know you messaged me earlier this week, and I tried to respond, and it just wouldn't go through. I think your page was down or something again. If she's out there, I don't know if she'll get that message. The other thing, I want to know the answer to Brennan's riddle there about Star Wars. Which film surpassed it on an early weekend? Early, I assume, you mean within like a month of the release of the movie, where Star Wars wasn't the top ranking film of the weekend. I'd be curious to know what that was. In any case, these are the 3 recorded shows I've got on KWAX. Picture Perfect's the movie music show, and we're in the final few minutes of that right now out there on the West Coast. These are the Eastern times. You can listen at 8 o'clock. It's really 5 o'clock out there, but we're in the last 15 minutes of my Himalayan show. So if you tune in right now, you can hear the end of Dmitri Tiomkin's score for Lost Horizon. Tomorrow, Sweetness and Light is it's a program of lighter music. I'm celebrating Mozart's birthday tomorrow with a musical joke, but also some strange stuff done in homage to Mozart by Raymond Scott and Benny Goodman, Florence Foster Jenkins, Victor Borge, all kinds of crazy stuff. And that's tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock Eastern, or if you're on the West Coast, 8 a.m. The Lost Chord is unusual and neglected repertoire. Laurie Johnson, the film and television composer, died earlier this week at 96. He's the guy who wrote the theme for The Avengers and some other. What is it? The Professionals? Is that the other thing that he had done?
I knew about The Avengers. I'm not sure about The Professionals.
Is it the Tony Curtis and am I thinking of the right thing, or is that the Pretender? I don't know. Anyway, he did a number. The Jason King. He did a number of memorable TV themes, yes, but also the music for Dr. Strangelove. He wrote a symphony, and I'm doing it tomorrow night on the Lost Chord at 7 o'clock Eastern time, or 4 o'clock out there. You can stream them at the address that's shown on there, the URL. It's the University of Oregon. So it's KWAX is the name of the station. If you go to my Facebook page at Classic Ross Amico, I promote those things there. You can just click on the link and listen to the streaming at the times indicated. Anyway, so that's all that's going on this weekend, I guess, on the shows. The Laurie Johnson show also has music by Jerome Moross and John Williams, by the way. Some of their concert works. So that's it. Thanks.
No, thanks, Ross. And it was the Persuaders.
Persuaders. The Persuaders. I'm thinking of the wrong series altogether, I think.
Whoops. Sorry, Ross.
Maybe I'm mixing the two series up. Maybe he did the music for the Professionals, and the Persuaders was the Tony Curtis one.
Yeah, the Tony Curtis one, and Roger Moore was the Persuaders. I think that's what you're
talking about. So I get it all screwed up. I don't know.
I put the URL into the chat too, so the folks can.
I know the music, but not the show. So,
but
Avengers, of course, everybody knows. Yeah.
Yeah, my goodness. And lastly, folks, just to let everybody know, Ross and I will be back next Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we will be discussing heroes of science fiction. So we're looking forward to that. It'll be a little bit different, but should be a very interesting topic in regards
Plural,
to...
not possessive, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, heroes of sci-fi.
Yeah, thanks, Ross.
So we're going to... what are we going to do? Are we going to pick like our top 10 or top 5? Or are we just going to talk about... It's going to be free form. I guess we could discuss it off the show. We'll surprise you.
Well,
think about your favorite heroes of sci-fi, and we'll talk about it.
Come to the show and let us know what your hero is from either a movie or a television show involved with science fiction, and we will be discussing it. So it should be a fun discussion, and it's a little bit different from what we've done in the past. So
Did Brennan mention what the movie was that surpassed Star Wars?
I think he said The Deep.
Oh, The Deep. Thank you. Wow. Jacqueline Bisset pulled it out. Yeah. Wow.
Jacqueline Bisset.
Don't underestimate the power of those snorkel sequences.
Did you ever see that movie?
Yes, I did, but not in the theater.
Okay. Yeah, he said The Deep beat Star Wars for only one weekend. Have a good night.
Good. Is he saying good night, or is he saying good night? Like, good Lord. Good night, Brennan.
Matt's saying, what? No groundhogs?
Wait a minute. It's not Groundhog Day yet, is it?
I think it actually wasn't it?
Is it going to be Groundhog Day next week? It's February 2nd. Are we there yet?
Oh, okay. No, we're not there yet.
Is February 2nd a Friday?
I think it's a Saturday, isn't it?
Oh, it is. Okay, so it's the first.
There's 29 days in this year because it's
so no groundhogs, Matt.
Yeah,
we're too early for the groundhogs.
There you go.
Yeah.
But
maybe Roy will see a shadow.
Maybe I will, especially with this shirt.
That shirt is your shadow.
That is my shadow, exactly. Only like the shadow knows, Ross. Only the shadow knows.
You're like a referee on the Death Star.
Matt's saying on your February 2nd show.
Oh, on my February 2nd show. Wait, what's he saying? I don't know.
Actually, no. Friday, February 2nd is next Friday. Yeah.
Jeez. Well, the groundhog was my number one hero. It's like he spoiled it.
Well, there you go. Oh, well. Everybody's telling us what next Friday is, so we're good.
It's Groundhog Day.
Groundhog Day.
No, well.
There you go.
Well, there's only one show we can do then, and that's Groundhog Day.
Right, exactly. Which we're not going to
do. We're not going to do that.
No. I think I actually saw that movie in the theater too. I think that was in 1988. I think it came out in 88.
Wow.
That's not even
long ago too, huh? Doesn't seem like that long ago.
We're piling on, Ross. The years are going by.
They are going by. And it's not that I don't like the movie. You know.
No, I like the movie too.
Yeah. But we're just not doing it.
Linda liked your comment.
I'll let Ross referee. Well, she's out there now. Linda, I didn't get your I tried to respond to your message about Beethoven earlier in the week, and I couldn't get through to your page. So I just want to let you know that. So
maybe anyway. Try Messenger.
Yeah.
There you go. But thank everybody for being with us. Hoping that you have a wonderful weekend and a wonderful week ahead. It's very hard to believe that January is pretty much on the way out. And yeah, we'll be next week at this time. We will be able to say next month is spring. So that's 2 thumbs up on that, right, Ross?
6 more weeks of winter, Roy.
What?
6 more weeks of winter. What? Run away! Run away!
Linda is saying it is Groundhog Day next Friday. Oops, did someone say that already? Lots of laughs.
Yeah.
It's all right, Linda. It's the delay. You're in a causality loop.
Zardoz.
Zardoz. She's got Zardoz on the mind.
Matt put it there.
Oh boy, no going back.
See you in February, Lou.
Linda's saying, "Where, Ross? You should be able to communicate through the messenger." Yeah,
It just wouldn't. It wouldn't go through Messenger. I didn't know if you took your page down again or not.
No.
But anyway,
there you go.
It is weird. Conspiracy.
Oh, there you go.
Just like in this movie.
On that note,
have a good weekend. Conspire. Yeah.
Live long and conspire. Exactly.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Take care, everybody.
Enjoy the last of January.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.